there are multiple beings who have now come into the cinema that I'm in, and they are working through the third eye, reprogramming neural networks to activate the DNA. And all we need to do is to just ask to be connected, to start having conversation. Then this is how we expand our consciousness on an embodied level, an embodiment of love, an embodiment of the fact that we are more than just a human being.
I'm here today with Beth Atkins. She has had multiple spiritually transformative and Kundalini type experiences. She's had direct experiences of other beings and forms of consciousness. Thank you for joining me, Beth.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for having me, Melissa. It's lovely to be here with you.
Likewise, you were doing some somatic work and you had your first major experience. Could you share that with us, and also any relevant information leading up to it?
Yes, of course. Yes. A little bit of information leading up to it, actually. In 2017, I had an encounter with a family member that made me question my internal life and actually what was happening around me. The two, for me, didn't really match. And this person let me down in a very big way. So that was one of my major transformation moments where I just thought something in my life isn't quite right here. And so as time went on, I discovered I had some traumatic memories coming up. So I took myself off to somatic trauma therapy, because I myself am a somatic practitioner. So I spent about a year in somatic trauma therapy, working mainly with programs and my conditioning from my child, and working through kind of healing the layers and just really trying to get to know who I was underneath everything that I felt that had been on top of me and I was carrying around. So it was during this process I began to have some small experiences, which is when I began to remember myself in my mother's womb. So these are my pre-birth memories. I found myself in my mother's womb, and I remember being in the amniotic fluid sac, just moving around and hearing muffled sounds. And so that was my very, very first experience of a more expanded version of who I was, because I just knew myself as this human person, adult person. After about a year of trauma therapy, I also began to have other experiences happening to me. But I then decided that I would go on a course over to America, because I'm from the UK. And I went on a 4-day course in California. And it was another somatic course now. And this was delving a bit deeper into embodied anatomy and embodied embryology. So exploring more of this kind of work really was where the major transformation experiences began. My first one really was, we were doing some embryology work, and we were experiencing ourselves as the egg coming down the fallopian tube. And I was having memories of opening out from the tube into the womb itself, and it being a very dark and stagnant place for me. I remember the journey to the implantation site and how the implantation was for me. Along this kind of work, we were working with how we can bring into the experience more love, because mine was it was just very dark and very stagnant. That's really the only way that I can describe it. There was no flowing, there was no movement going on, there was nothing there. And so we began to work in a more loving way and trying to introduce the love in. So that was kind of my first experience of something else as well. But then we moved on to working with the heart and the lungs, and embodying the heart and the lungs. And we were exploring this wonderful movement of the heart in the center of the two lungs moving. And as I'm doing this movement, I'm really, really enjoying this movement. And I'm just loving being able to feel my physical heart. And I spent a long time doing this. After this exploration I just felt this massive opening of my heart, and something I had never, ever felt before, just this expanding heart of mine. And I could just feel love pouring out of my heart. And so that was my very first experience of something I now call unconditional love. And that was radiating from my heart. So this was like my heart opening out into, this is something else that I haven't experienced before. So the days continued, and I then progressed into having another experience. Oh, so later that evening on that same day when I had this massive heart experience, I'd gone back to my apartment that afternoon after having the days finished. And I remember going back to my apartment, and I remember actually just smiling the entire way back to the apartment, because all I can feel is love. And I'm walking along the road, along the blocks, and all I'm feeling is love. And I'm looking around and all I see is love. And so I get back to my apartment, and I'm sitting in my apartment, and I just sit there for about 2 to 3 hours, literally just in a complete state of trance, almost just soaking in this love. And it's all around me, and it's just all encompassing. And I'm so in it, I can't move. I don't want to move. I don't want to do anything. I just literally want to sit there. And I think I probably sat there for about 3 hours just soaking in this love. But then the real major transformational experience happened then, when I decided actually I really ought to go to the local grocery store, and I needed a bit of food to eat for the evening. So I took myself off and I went to the local grocery store. And it was only when I went into the grocery store that I realized, as I'm walking around, gosh, everything around me looks and feels like love. Everybody is love. All of the food is love. All of the fridges where the food was love. The floor was love. The ceiling was love. Everything around me was love, and all I could feel was love. And then I had another experience of suddenly, I just was aware of everything becoming very, very bright, really, really bright around me. And I was kind of like, squinting my eyes a little bit because it was so bright. And then I realized, actually, this isn't the lights from the shop that are so bright. I realized actually that this light is coming from within me. And this light is shining through my eyes, and through my eyes is shining this light, and I'm feeling love. So in that moment, in those moments of walking around this grocery store, I'm realizing that I am love, and I am light, and I am a human form. These were the two major, major experiences that transformed me. And from that day, I have never been able to go back to who I was before. So I'd had all these expansive experiences, and they were kind of very much in a horizontal plane of feeling, and everything was radiating from me. The following day, I had an experience which was my Kundalini experience, which then opened up to me very, very quickly the vertical axis from Dear Mother Earth and up into Father Sky. So I'm now having this experience of both the horizontal love and the light, the vertical of Mother Earth and Father Sky. And all of these are coming into my heart. And this is the center point within my heart. At the same time as feeling Mother Earth, Father Sky, I'm also suddenly aware of the fact that I've just connected up to something else. Again, that isn't anything that I've known before. This is me connecting now up to, at the time I called it space, because it was the only way that I could describe it. But now I know that I was connecting up now more into source frequency, into the expansive consciousness, into the cosmic universe. And in that moment of feeling that verticality, I was ultimately and intimately connected to now the cosmic universe. So these were the two main massive, massive transformational experiences I had. That was on my last day when I had that vertical experience. And so then I had to travel back to the UK. I had one more night in America before I came home. So I spent the time just within those energies of the love, the light, and the cosmic universe. And that is all that I could really feel of myself. I could feel my body, but I couldn't identify as my body. All I could identify with was the love, the light, and the cosmic universe. Then the following day, I go to sleep and I wake up the following day, then having to travel back to the UK. And I traveled back to the UK. And then this is when, for me, the difficulties began, because I have a husband and I have 3 children. So, and I've been married for 20 odd years. So coming back from all of these majorly transformational experiences was very, very difficult for me and very, very odd. And I felt like I had walked back into someone else's life. It didn't feel like it was my life. And it felt like I could see and I could recognize around me that I knew that I had built this life here, but it didn't feel like it was my life. So the integration of everything that I had just experienced into this world that I had built for myself was a very, very tricky thing. As time went on, after that, when I got back, I had 10 months of constant, more and more expansive experiences. There was one time where I decided that I would actually go and join a meditation group, because previous to this trip out to America, I had always disconnected myself from actually my more spiritual side and my more psychic side. Some people call it psychic. I've never really found myself as psychic. I've been having experiences with spirits for 10, 15 years previous to my experiences over in America. But it's something that I had always disconnected from myself from, because I was brought up that wasn't real. My mother was very fearful of all of that kind of stuff. So she didn't really want to entertain the idea of anything else other than the physical world. So over the next 10 months, I had experiences where I remembered lots and lots of my past lives. I had glimpses of my past lives. I was continuing with my somatic healing work. So I would do my own personal somatic work in my studio. Through these experiences, I would suddenly be moving through something, and then an experience of another life would come up. And one of those lives, I remember being an energy planet, which was not long form. And there was a definite feminine and a masculine energy within this energy planet. And I just had a very small glimpse of being that planet. So I bring that experience back with me too. I'm experiencing myself riding on a horse as a young Indian girl in a tribe in Arizona, I think it was. I'm experiencing myself also as a fish, a whale, a dragon. So I'm having all of these somatic experience rememberings of my past lives. So all of these experiences are just coming up and up and up and up for me. I then have another experience where I joined a meditation group, and one day we decided that we would go to a local hill with a cathedral on the top, and it had a labyrinth up there. And my meditation teacher said that one by one we were going to each walk the labyrinth. And so I volunteered to go first. And so I took my shoes off and I put them down, and it was just a very small stone labyrinth that was laid out. I'm taking my labyrinth path and taking this walk and moving around and having a few experiences as I'm going around. And then I leave once I have completed my labyrinth walk, and I come and I sit down. Then we each sit and we let the others do their journeys. And we are all holding the space for each one of us to do our labyrinth journeys. As I'm sitting, watching and holding the space for others, I suddenly had this experience of, whoa, and suddenly I get this experience of stillness, just complete and utter stillness. And within this, at the same time, there is stillness, there is nothingness, but there is also everythingness as well. So I'm experiencing nothing and everything at the same time. And within this experience, I realized that it's like, I realized afterwards that this is actually source that is just landing on me, directly source itself. And as I'm in this experience, I'm realizing that everything that source knows, I now know, because I'm experiencing source. I don't consciously know in that moment, because the moment literally only lasted probably 3 or 4 seconds, and then it disappeared. And then obviously the human side of me goes, I'd like to experience that again. So I try and get myself back into that space again. And again, I get this suddenly nothingness, but everythingness. Within literally 2 seconds of that one, I realized also that everything is being downloaded into me. Everything that Source knows, I now know. Then that moment is gone. So I'm having all of these expansive experiences and desperately trying to integrate them into my life as a wife and a mother with 3 boys. I have to keep going on my daily path of doing what I need to do. But I'm also having these experiences. It's an ongoing process, and it's still an ongoing process for me, but it is becoming easier because now I've had so many. So this started 4.5 years ago now. So I've had, and I continue to have more and more experiences. And there's a pattern for me that once I've experienced something expanse, I then go to the opposite end of the spectrum, and, you know, I go back to the human side of me, and it goes, I can't cope with this, don't want this, I don't want this, it's too much, it's too much, it's too much. So I've done that pendulum swing, but then after a couple of days, I then come back into the center where the integration then begins to happen of, okay, so that expansive experience did actually happen. And I also have this other daily life that I have. So how do I move through each day now, having had all of these expansive, multiple dimensional experiences? How do I move through my days now? And that has been my ongoing question. How do I keep moving through all of this? Because also some of the experiences I had a crazy experience of a parallel reality also. So the story behind that one goes, a couple of years ago, I'd gone to see the last Matrix film. Always been a fan of the Matrix films. And I'd gone to see it in the cinema. I got into the cinema and began watching the film and was really enjoying the film. Halfway through the film, I suddenly become aware of the fact that there are multiple beings who have now come into the cinema that I'm in. And they are with each one of the other people that are in the cinema with me. And they are working with each individual through the third eye, and they are reaching in and reprogramming various different neural networks to help switch and activate on the DNA and to release the unhelpful programming that they were carrying around with them. So I become aware of this, and these experiences, whenever you're experiencing them, and all of the experiences that I've talked about, when you're having these experiences, they feel so real, so real, and way more real than anything that I have ever experienced previous to all of these experiences. So a part of this process for me has been what is real, what isn't real, and therefore what comes with that is what is reality. You know, then when you go down this line of questioning what is reality, then you realize that whatever we have been told actually isn't really the real truth, what actual reality is. And we've only ever been told about a very small part of reality and what reality is. The human experience has been a very small part of our larger embodiment of consciousness. So everything that we have been brought up in and told, and this goes back for generations and years and thousands of years, that for so long we have been kept in this very small bandwidth of frequency of consciousness. And so when we have these experiences and these more expansive experiences, what that's actually doing for us is introducing us to a slightly bigger reality, a slightly bigger frequency, a slightly higher frequency, a slightly different frequency to what we've been used to going round and round and round in all of our loops. All of my experiences have taught me and have shown me that actually what I was living in as a human being has been very small and limited bandwidth of thinking, of feeling, of sensing, of emotions, and how all of these interlink with each other. And I've always been very much an empath and an emotional person. So I've always lived my emotions, and my emotions have been me. And I've always got very lost in my emotions. I haven't been able to, in the past, being able to see anything but my emotions. And as all empaths do, we get a bit buffeted by other people's emotions because we take other people's emotions on as well. So it's been a real learning process for me to try and discern what are my emotions and what someone else's emotions are. The foundation of it is, so what does it feel like for me when I have my own emotions, and what does it feel like when I have someone else's emotions? And that's been part of my learning process about how I navigate that and how I negotiate that.
Thank you so much for sharing. And yes, what you said did make sense. I enjoyed hearing about your experiences. Let me ask you this. Did you have any spiritual background at all to help you understand what was happening to you? Or what was your background with spirituality?
Yeah, so no is the answer to that one. I was actually brought up in a Christian church, and I did go to church from when I was a very small baby until I was about 18. And I used to sing in the church choir. So I went to church, but for me, actually, it never was a religious experience. I started off dancing, and that's kind of how I got into the somatic work. So I was always in my body, and I could see around me that the people in the church and who were doing things, it didn't mean anything. There was no connection between what they were saying and anything else. And for me, it was just words. So I always used to go along every Sunday and not actually pay attention to what was going on. And I just went and enjoyed singing in the choir and the social aspects of everything. Although I went to church, I was never religious. My family were never really spiritual people. So again, they kind of went along with the religious dogma and the structure of the religion. So they were also never into the more spiritual or psychic side or anything like that. We never had spiritual discussions about anything at home. And growing up, again, I was in schools where it just, spirituality wasn't discussed at all. Religion was discussed, but not spirituality. So there was no connection for me at all. Part of this story for me comes back to when I was a little girl as well. I do remember seeing and talking to spirits around me when I was very, very tiny. And I think around about the age 4, I think I must have said something to my mother about what I was seeing around me and what they were saying to me. And at that point, I think, is when she closed me down, and she said, look, I don't want you talking about things like that anymore. Just don't ever say anything like that ever again. And I think at age 4, that's when I closed that side of me down. So then I grew the rest of my life. That's my first separation of that's not me. I'm not allowed to be that. I have to be kind of, this 3D physical person who goes along with the religious dogma and the education and everything else. And because I'd done that, therefore I wasn't attracting any spiritual people around me that I could speak to, talk to about anything. So literally everything was just cut off. So I had literally no spiritual connection with anything apart from, for me, my spiritual connections came through my dancing, through my somatic work, and just being in nature was my own other spiritual connection places. And I was brought up on the south coast of England next to the sea. So I had a massive affinity to the sea and the beach and the sand and everything as well. So that was my spiritual connections, but I certainly didn't have anybody with me talking about this stuff with me or showing me, guiding me or anything like that. So yeah, it was a massive change for me.
So one of the most common questions I get is from people who are not able to connect, to feel a spiritual connection, and they want to know, how can I have a spiritual connection? How can I connect to my guides or to God or to whatever language they use? So I like to ask you, from your experience, what is it about the somatic work that opened up that connection for you again?
That for me was the thing, and it is all about going within. So spiritual connection can only be found by going within. You cannot find it anywhere else. You cannot find it external to you. You can't find it in nature, because you have to find it through you into nature. So it doesn't come from outside. So for me, the somatic work it was my time where I could bring myself back into me and listen to what was going on inside me and how to connect with myself in a more directed and non-judgmental way. And because also that was the other thing that I'd grown up with, totally unknown, was just a pure amount of judgment that was going on. None of it was ever abusive or anything like that, but it was just the general sense of the culture of the society that I was brought up in. It's actually quietly judgmental. So of course you take that on board as well for yourself. So this is the other thing that the somatic work gave me was the non-judgmental space to be in. And that for me just opened the real tightness that was surrounding me. And I could actually, it's okay to just let go a little bit and just to be with me. And this for me is the beginning crack of it. If you can spend time within yourself, do the somatic work, which for me, ultimately, yes, I've got lots of different somatic modalities I do, but the one that got me through my trauma actually was just plain and simple somatic meditation, where I would each day, I would sit for half an hour and I would do body scans all the way from my toes through to my ankles, my legs, my knees, my thighs, my pelvis, my stomach, coming into my chest and my arms, and then throat and then head. And I would spend literally half an hour each day just slowly going from the toes all the way up and just being with that non-judgmental, and just sensing, just feeling, just noticing differences. And each day that I came to it, I was intrigued and I was curious to see, okay, so how is my left calf today? How does that feel? Does that feel tight? Does it feel like it's anxious? Does it feel like it's ragey? Or is it quite calm? Is it quite fluid? Or does it feel quite heavy? Or does it feel quite light? And so for me, it opened up this amazing sense of curiosity and inquisitiveness that I wasn't being allowed to have in the 3D physical life that I've been brought up with, because it's very left brain, it's very don't think, don't sense, don't feel, it's very regimented. So it just opened me up into this whole new freedom and sense of exploration, and that actually I could be in this place and I could explore, and it was okay to explore. It was a safe place to explore. So I would say if anybody wants to connect with their own spiritual experiences, is to go within. And God or source or love, whatever you want to call it, is within us. It's the only place it is within us. And we experience everything else from within us. And everything radiates from us. And through my experiences, then if I can just take this on a little bit further. So throughout all of my experiences, I've always ever journaled. And I'm still journaling to this day. Through my journaling process was where I then began also to communicate with different forms of energy that perhaps I'd already experienced, but also lots of different groups of ETs and different beings who would come to me and they would help me through my own process of, okay, how do I get through today? Or I'm having this particular problem, please help me. What do I do? And so they would come in and be my guides for my own personal process. But also what was happening was I found that they were also giving me messages that were also applicable to the collective consciousness as well. Because we are all going through this massive shift in consciousness at the moment. We're all going through an evolution in consciousness. They were helping me to go through my own evolution, but it's also the same for everybody else because we're all going through the same thing. So again, for me, it's about being with the body, being within yourself to connect, but also having a dialogue both within the body through the curious explorations that we have. Okay, how does my left foot feel today? But also direct conversation, direct dialoguing with our guides, with God, with Source. And if you can begin to get into a practice, this is the other practice that I have now, it's a daily practice of speaking out loud and having a dialogue and just asking, okay, I'm here today. I'm having this trouble. This is how I feel. And this is how I'm feeling, how I'm walking through this path right in this moment. I'm needing guidance. Please give me guidance. What can you show me? What can you tell me? What do I need to do? And if you can begin this process of dialoguing out loud as well as being internal, the both together, then your guides, your teams, God, source frequencies, they will show up for you. They will be there. Because we're in a time at the moment where we're all opening up to these energies. We have so many teams of guides and helpers here to help us through this actual moment in time, both individually and collectively. They are all here for us right now. And all we need to do is to just ask to be connected, to start having conversations and to listen. So we listen again through the body. Some of it comes directly through words. But for me, it's about the feeling, and it's about getting into the feeling of, okay, so I'm having a conversation. Can I feel this presence with me? Can I feel this being with me? Because once we begin to bring the feelings in of a presence, of God, of Jesus, of a being, once we begin to bring these feelings in, then this is how we expand our consciousness on an embodied level, because this is what we're really talking about is embodiment of who we are, of who we truly are, an embodiment of love, an embodiment of the fact that we are more than just a human being. We are a multidimensional being, and we have different aspects of ourselves in different frequencies, and they are all here with us now in this moment. We can feel them. If we ask to feel them, if we pay attention, if we begin to learn to listen what's going on inside our bodies, spend time with our bodies and ourselves, ask to bring it in and to feel it, ask to be able to feel it. Show me, can you show me what love feels like? Can you show me? And just keep having these dialogues. The thing I will say is, because we've all been so used to not feeling our bodies and not being within ourselves, this process can be quite tricky to begin with, because we're not used to it. We're not used to knowing what it feels like for anything. You know, even when we are emotional, we tend to have emotions out here somewhere. We're never really in here, really feeling it and being it and moving through it. This was my experience with emotions anyway. So it's about bringing everything into you and bringing these expansive experiences that you have into you, that then opens you up and into realizing that you are more than just a human being. You know, I have different teams of beings that I work with that come with me, and I feel them with me wherever I walk, wherever I go now. The integration and the embodiment process of all this means that, you know, I'm walking pretty much every day with this multidimensional awareness. And it's not a thinking concept, it's a feeling thing, and it's an embodiment thing. So as I'm walking around, I'm feeling the beings with me. I'm feeling Mother Earth under my feet. I'm feeling Father Sky above me. I'm feeling the love and the light coming through me. And I'm feeling me sending love and light into the houses that I'm walking past as I'm walking down the road. You know, I'm feeling as I'm going into the grocery store that, again, I'm just feeding into all these light and love into everybody, into the store. And, you know, it's a ripple effect as I'm walking around. So it's this multi-dimensional felt awareness, which is actually what we are. And we're moving from this transition of just identifying ourselves with our egos, with our personas that we are in our human lives. You know, we're in this process now of moving away from that, realizing by feeling, by experiencing what we are, and bringing that into our daily lives to be this embodied person human being as we're walking around.
Thank you so much for breaking that down. One thing that's interesting to me is that we're talking about being embodied and feeling the body, feeling the emotion. And yet these transcendent spiritual experiences that we often seek, as you mentioned in your story, when you had one of these experiences, you found it difficult to connect to the body. So it almost seems like the process of spiritual evolution is learning how to ground those higher states into the body. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yes. And that is absolutely it. It is, because again, we're moving away from the new age thing where ascension is about transcending the human body and moving into the higher frequencies. That is the old age, the old paradigm. When we're in the new paradigm where actually we experience the higher frequencies and go through the process of ascension. But ascension actually is coming into the body. It's not transcending the body. It's coming into the body and bringing those higher frequencies into the human body. And this is the other thing that has, there's been many things that have been downloaded into me and information that I've processed during these experiences. And one talks about the human DNA, and that we actually have multidimensional DNA that is designed to hold both the higher frequencies and the lower frequencies of the physical, the dense body. So the emotions of the human being, we're not looking to get rid of all emotions. We're actually still looking to have the full range of human emotions. And I'm going to probably be a little bit controversial here, but to experience anger still, to experience sadness still, to experience rage, but also to experience joy, to experience bliss, to experience love, unconditional love. We are built, our DNA is designed to hold all of these frequencies, all in the one human body. So this process that we're going through now as a collective is about expanding from this small, dense place that we have been, experiencing the more wider, the more higher frequencies, but bringing it in. It's all about embodiment now and anchoring that both into our body, but also into Mother Earth, because this is the other bigger part of the plan that we are here. People who are experiencing these things are here to bring those frequencies into the body so that we can anchor them into Mother Earth. And then we hold the frequency here then for others to go through the same process. So we're like the anchors that are being here now to anchor this frequency. So this brings me on to another one of my experiences, if I may go down that road. Another thing that came to me was that I do a lot of walking. So I live fairly near the country where I can just go out walking into fields, and there's a canal that we have that I walk down a lot. So on one of my walks that I've been doing for many, many years, and this was 2-3 years ago now, I suddenly got to a place that I usually go to. And anyway, I was guided to stop exactly where I was and to look up into the sky. And so I stood there and I looked up. And as I looked up, slowly but surely, this huge structure was being revealed to me. And it was a rainbow crystalline structure that was so high, I can't even gauge how high it was, but it was big and it was high. And it was like it had crossbars at the top and then poles, supporting poles down it. So this went off to my left and it came over me, and then it was revealed to me that it went on down and down and down that way. And I kind of just stood there with my mouth open, because I was like, wow, this is beautiful. This is amazing. This is like, wow. And then my jaw really dropped, because then they told me that actually I was the one that had been building these rainbow crystalline structures. So I was like, wow. So I'm moving through this and I'm realizing that I've been building these structures. And then they're also telling me at the same time that I've been building these in my sleep. And not only have I been building these in my sleep, I've been doing this for quite some time in my sleep. So this is, again, another aspect of me that's building these rainbow crystalline structures. And then it's also revealed to me that there are others in the local area that are doing the same. So as I look off into the distance, there are more of these crystalline structures in the distance that I know I haven't been building, but other people have been building. And then it comes to me also that I'm apparently have been kind of like a master engineer, structural builder who's been overseeing the project in this local area of all of this crystalline rainbow structures. So again, it kind of brings into the conversation that we are all multidimensional beings, and we all have different aspects of ourselves that sit in different frequencies that we may or may not be conscious of, but we are so busy doing stuff here that we are, which is down to assisting this whole shift in consciousness that the whole planet and the whole collective is going through. We each have our own different jobs that we're here to do. One of mine was the crystalline structures, and then I have other jobs as well, but we're each here doing our own thing. And so again, it's realizing that this is what we are. And again, if you open yourselves up to it, if you have conversations, if you dialogue about it, if you go into the body and feel the body, again, what do these things feel like? Ask yourselves these questions and ask to be connected, ask to see, ask to feel your guides, and just get that guidance, because we've got so many helpers here. Each of us has so many helpers here to help us through each stage of our process that we're all going through at the moment.
Could I ask you about the crystalline structures that you and others are building? Do
Yes,
they have a purpose? What are they for?
Yeah. So I drew, I'm not an artist, but I drew a very basic picture of them. Whilst I was drawing them, it was then being downloaded to me about what was going on. So these structures, when I was building them, they were literally just kind of like pole type things, although very beautiful rainbow crystalline ones. Once they had been built, I then had to then go and activate them and put them on. So what then happens is that the new consciousness, the rainbow crystalline consciousness, comes from these poles and it radiates out. And so it creates big bubbles of this new consciousness. And so because there's a grid of these structures, and they're all holding this bubble of new consciousness, that is the framework and the consciousness which will then feed and nurture and support those who are remembering, who are coming back online, who are waking up, who are having experiences. So this is when I say to have dialogues, to speak out loud, because the consciousness is there, it's being held there, and it's ready for you to talk to it. So talk to it, have the conversations, and see what you get back, and just keep going with it. It can be tempting, again, I think, to as a human being, if you're not used to feeling or sensing or anything, it can be quite tempting to kind of force the issue and to think, right, I've got to sit here and I've got to sit here for 10 minutes a day, and I've got to dialogue and I've got to ask, and I've got to do this, and and I've got to religiously follow all of this stuff. And it's like you kind of just have to let all that go. Have literal no expectations about anything. So whenever you dialogue, whenever you go within, have zero expectations. Take everything away that you've ever known about anything, and just sit, receive, and be in the moment of feeling yourself and feeling your body, of dialoguing. Sit in those moments without any expectation, without any framework, without anything. If you can do that, and then you continue to do that, then eventually things will start coming to you. Things will start happening. You will feel something, even if it's only a little something. But these things will come to you because the consciousness is being held there. Part of the activation process was also to send waves of energy down the actual poles of the crystalline structure. Because again, this keeps it flowing, and it keeps it moving, and it brings in the other crystalline energy into the poles, which then radiate out and hold the consciousness for everybody else there to feed into.
Beth, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Would you like to share with the viewers where they can find you?
My mission at the moment seems to be to anchor and to embody all of these experiences I've had, and to just move around wherever I go with this embodiment within me. So I haven't yet got any services online. I haven't done any websites. I've had goes at having websites and things. So the easiest way to contact me for the moment is on my email, which is bethatkins@myyahoo.com. So that's bethatkins@myyahoo.com. And also, I would like to mention that I am on a very small but global community of other people who have been experiencing things like I've been experiencing. It's been set up by a lovely woman who is a lifetime contactee of the ETs and also a Mayan priest. And they're bringing both the Mayan wisdom and the direct translations from other beings all into this community. And they've set it up to support and to help and to nurture people who are having experiences, and we're all supporting each other. So I'm going to mention that as well. That's called Light Dialogic. And the link for that is community.lightdialogic.com.
Wonderful. So I'll put your links in the description. And Beth, thank you so much for being willing to have this conversation.
Well, thank you, Melissa. Thank you very much for having me on. And it's been wonderful to talk with you today. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you for watching the Love Covered Life podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share this video with your friends, and comment with your thoughts and opinions. And check the description box for the links to my TikTok and Instagram, where I share the more personal side of my life, my website, where I share my paintings and merch, and also the Be a Guest link for anybody who's interested in sharing their story. Be loved, be happy, be at peace, and thank you for watching.